Okay, so I'm at the Washington Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Hello, Washington, D.C.
Thank you guys so much for joining us at the second Rage Against the War Machine.
And this is the Rage Against the War Machine.
We are here to tell the people in all the buildings around us, Congress, the White House, the Pentagon, the CIA, the Fed, we're here to tell them we're done with your wars.
Okay, and I guess the people are on the other side.
Operatives, all of the killing you do abroad, sanctioned, unsanctioned, whatever it is, we're here to rage against the war machine. Thank you so much to everyone who's attending, and thank you so much to everybody watching our live stream.
We're here to say the war in Ukraine has come to the point of almost becoming a nuclear war. The war in Gaza is expanding into Lebanon, Iran. We're done with these wars. We want those resources back home. We want to go to the people in this country. We want our freedoms back. We're here to demand it. We're going to make it happen. You're all going to make it happen, right?
How much is this one?
Your democracy is not hiding in Gaza. Your democracy is not hiding in Iran. Sending troops abroad to murder innocent women and children does not
Hey,
make
Barbara.
you safer at
Hi,
home.
MC.
If you are a true patriot,
Thank
if
you,
you
MC.
love this country, then you will agree with me
God
that
bless
it's time
you.
to bring our troops home. Have
This was a
peaceful
huge
foreign
event
policy.
last year at the Lincoln Memorial. And quite frankly, I thought it was at the Lincoln Memorial again.
Amazing lineup coming up,
And then
right?
I saw-
Angela's going to hand it over to our first speaker here.
We do. We have an incredible lineup. Our next
Ivan's
Our
speaking.
first speaker is going to be Keith Knight, the managing
Hey,
editor
Wyoming
of the
girl.
Libertarian Institute. Let's give it up for him.
Woo!
I mean,
It's on. There we go.
this was a
War
huge event
is a
last year.
euphemism for theft-funded mass murder based on lies, often involving slaves known as conscripts. Almost all Democrats and Republicans hold two blatantly
Critical Thinker,
contradictory
welcome,
beliefs.
y'all.
First, if your
Happy
domestic government
Saturday.
ever violates your freedom, you must embrace calm disagreement but never resist. When an officer gives you an order, you must obey them lest you get killed like Ashley Babbitt. Second, when any foreign
What?
politician potentially or hypothetically
They never
violates
ordered
your
her to
freedom,
stand down.
You must go to war and advocate the mass murder of civilians. Since the costs of violence are extremely high, often immoral, and outcomes very uncertain,
Did he
I
just
suggest
say
you take
that?
the peaceful route as often as possible. Regarding warfare, here are 12 facts the fake news and fake historians have omitted. First, on September 20th of 2001, President Bush said, "They hate us for our freedom and democracy." Yet, in Al-Qaeda in its own words, published by Harvard University Press, Bin Laden's grievances consisted of U.S. deadly sanctions on Iraq, U.S. support for Israeli crimes in Palestine and Lebanon,
Hey, Rocky
and
Pac-Man.
U.S. military occupation of Saudi Arabia. This lie led to NATO's first ever declaration of war, and after 20 years, tens of thousands of civilian and military deaths, the Taliban seized Kabul in 11 days. Second, the U.S. government armed and took the side of Al-Qaeda in Syria to fight Bashar al-Assad. See Operation Timber Sycamore. Third, the U.S. government sided with and fought alongside Al-Qaeda in Libya, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, to oppose Muammar Gaddafi. Fourth, the U.S. government fought alongside Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula to fight against the Houthi government in Yemen. Number 5, in 1946, the Congressional Pearl Harbor investigation cited Secretary of War Henry Stimson's diary dated November 25th of 1941, saying, "The President brought up the event that we were likely to be attacked perhaps as soon as next Monday. The question was how we should maneuver them into the position of firing the first shot without allowing too much danger to ourselves." Number 6, in the First World War, First Lord of the Admiralty Winston Churchill said in his book, The World Crisis, 1911 to 1918, "The British blockade treated the whole of Germany as if it were a beleaguered fortress and avowedly sought to starve the whole population, men, women, and children, old and young, wounded and sound, into submission, not Kaiser Wilhelm, the civilian population." Number 7, It was Neville Chamberlain who declared war against Germany on September 3rd, 1939, after the National
This guy just
Socialists
said a whole
invaded
bunch of
Danzig,
bullshit.
Poland, a town which was roughly 95% German. And it was Winston Churchill who initiated the terror bombings of civilians in May of 1940. Chamberlain and Churchill's war for Polish independence resulted in 7 million dead Poles and Poland occupied by the Bolshevik regime. Number 8. Former Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, in his book Argument Without End, claims the August 4th, 1964 Gulf of Tonkin incident never took place, meaning the Tonkin Gulf Resolution of 1964 and mass murder campaign of Vietnam was based on a lie. This resolution passed the Senate 88 votes to 2 and the House 416 votes to 0. Listen to the experts. Number 9. Vice President Dick Cheney said on Meet the Press, it's been pretty well confirmed that he, Muhammad Atta, did go to Prague and he did meet with a senior official of the Iraqi intelligence service. Fake news. Number 10. We're told we must bear the cost of hundreds of thousands of lives in Ukraine for the sake of democracy. Yet, Zelensky did not hold his March 31st election of this year after outlawing 11 competing political parties. His military bombed NATO ally Poland on November 15th of 2022. He conscripts enslaves men to fight in his war just so he could stay on the throne in Kiev. Number 11. The real aim behind our current Russia policy is in the Pentagon's February 1992 Defense Planning Guidance draft, stating, our first objective is to prevent the reemergence of a new rival. We must maintain the mechanisms for deterring potential competitors from even aspiring to a larger regional or global role. Number 12. The origins of the Russia-Ukraine conflict were explained by President Obama in his book, A Promised Land, quoting from page 464. The U.S. decision 7 years earlier to pull out of the anti-ballistic missile treaty and its plans to house missile defense systems on Russia's border continue to be a source of strategic instability. The admission of former Warsaw Pact countries into NATO during both the Clinton and Bush administrations had steadily encroached on Russia's sphere of influence, while U.S. support for the color revolutions in Georgia, Ukraine, and Kyrgyzstan under the specious guise of democracy promotion had turned Russia's once friendly neighbors into governments hostile to Moscow. This is isolationism. Provoking enemies is isolating, not seeking friendship and free trade. The national security elites in every country since the beginning of time must lie and sensationalize potential foreign threats in order to get their domestic populations to surrender their freedoms and bear the high cost of dying and getting their limbs blown off. To Secretary of State Blinken and National Security Advisor Sullivan, don't just avoid war because it's the right thing to do. Do it for yourself. Overexpansion and engagement in unnecessary wars brought down Napoleon's French Empire, Tsar Nicholas's Russian Empire, Kaiser Wilhelm's German Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Habsburg Empire, the Ottoman Empire, Hirohito's Japanese Empire, Hitler's Third Reich, the British Empire, and the Soviet Empire. Those idiots got bogged down in a war in Afghanistan. What kind of empire would do such a thing? With the state having a monopoly on the money supply, and the right to take money without consent taxation, and the right to conscript, politicians seldom have an incentive to consider obvious peaceful alternatives to war. Consider the comment made by Congressman Seth Moulton of Massachusetts. The U.S. should make it very clear to the Chinese, if you invade Taiwan, we're going to blow up TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Hello, Attorney General, if inciting a riot can get someone arrested, what should happen to politicians who incite war? Instead of war with China over Taiwan, let's decriminalize all economic activity between consenting adults here and abroad to make sure our economy outcompetes all other countries. This is the true way to empower Americans. The question we need to ask ourselves to practice basic empathy. When would another country be justified in invading America, killing civilians, bombing cities, blockading ports, and installing a new government? If the answer is basically never, we should reject moral double standards and have the same principle for other countries. History shows we can talk to our enemies. Eisenhower shook hands with Khrushchev in America in 1959. Kennedy wrote letters to Khrushchev to avoid nuclear exchange over Cuba. Nixon shook hands with Mao in Beijing. Trump shook hands with Kim Jong-un in Singapore. Roosevelt and Truman had a formal alliance with Joseph Stalin. We can be friends with Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin for the sake of avoiding a nuclear exchange, which would make the crimes of the Third Reich look minuscule by comparison. To my friends on the right, the pro-life, pro-family position is anti-war. When God says, "Thou shalt not murder," there were no exceptions for politicians and soldiers. To my friends on the left, the biggest inequality is when one person takes the life of another unjustly, which in war occurs on a massive scale. Nothing is more exploitative to the average person than watching cities which took centuries to construct be blown to bits while getting conscripted into a war, watching your loved ones get murdered by bombs. My friends in the military, I was asked in grade school, if someone told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? The point was, you are directly responsible for the actions you take. I was told to do so. I was just following orders is not a valid excuse for school children or members of the military. Americans do not have to admire psychopathic politicians. We can admire Cornelius Vanderbilt for lowering the cost of steamship travel from $7 to 6 cents, the Wright brothers for giving the gift of flight to the common American, Henry Ford and the Ford Auto Workers for making the automobile accessible to the masses, the 3,400 construction workers who in 1931 built the Empire State Building in a record-breaking 1 year and 45 days, Rosa Parks for disobeying unjust laws, Martin Luther King for holding us Americans to the very standards we claim to uphold, Steve Jobs and the Apple employees for giving access to phones and computers to Americans on a scale never imagined. The great crimes of history, slavery, genocide, Jim Crow, Genghis Khan, all had one thing in common. They involved some people initiating violence against peaceful people. Americans must lead the world in embracing a consistent morality, rejecting war, recognizing it for what it is. Theft-funded mass murder based on lies, often involving slaves known as conscripts. Rage Against the War Machine. Thank you for your time.
Wyoming girl. Ashley Babbitt was not told to stand down. Please do your research. He heard me. I appreciate everything else he said. He just had that part wrong.
All right, everyone give it up for Dan McNight again. And next up, we have Keith Knight. He is a veteran of the global war on terror. He's also the chairman and the founder of Bring Our Troops Home and a sponsor of the Defend the Guard legislation, making sure that politicians across the states cannot illegally deploy our National Guard, State Guard members to overseas wars. Give him a big welcome.
Woo! We're at Rage Against the War Machine. This is Dan
I'm
McNight.
excited to be here again this year. I was here last year at this event, and it's a wonderful effort. I'm glad to be here, but thank you all for being here today. My fellow patriots and Americans, veterans, citizens from every background who are fed up watching our government send our sons and our daughters into one senseless conflict after another. I'm going to say some things today to the politicians that do it that may be the most offensive thing that you can say to a politician in Washington, D.C. The real power in this country does not rest in Washington, D.C. It rests with us, the people in the states.
Amen.
The real power in this country belongs to us, the people, and it's spread over 50 states. The federal government was never intended to be the controller of every minute and every minute aspect of our lives. And it sure as hell wasn't meant to put us in undeclared wars at the behest of the Pentagon or the contractors or the weapons financiers. The United States Constitution, the very founding document that these politicians swear to protect and uphold, defines the limits, the federal power, the limits and the federal power that the government has that we gave to them. It is limited, it is clear, and it is defined. The United States Constitution is our mechanism to level the battlefield. Our forefathers wrote that if the federal government wasn't given a power explicitly, then the authority belongs to the many states or to we the people. Let that sit for just a moment. Our state governments have more power than you've been led to believe by the fake news or the contrived media narratives or the politicians in DC. Beltway creatures in the deep state want us to think that they hold all of the cards, that they alone can decide when, where, and for how long we go to war, that they can meddle in and dictate to other sovereign nations, that they can deploy our National Guard overseas to extinguish the fires that they flamed, that Dick Cheney, that Don Rumsfeld, that George Bush, that Barack Obama, that they flamed. They want to send our citizen soldiers from Idaho and Arizona and Utah and Montana to go extinguish their fires. I'm here to tell you, as a veteran of the global war on terror and 18-month combat deployment in Afghanistan, and now the chairman of Bring Our Troops Home, I know it in my bones that Boise, Idaho, and not the Beltway will stop the war machine.
That's right.
But why is that? Why is it that Boise is going to be able to do this? Because Boise and cities like it around the great country, they represent the true will of the American people. The heartland has the power to say no more. No more sending our National Guard. No more sending the Guard to fight in endless undeclared wars. No more being used and abused as pawns for corporate profits and global power plays. The greatest threat to our democratic system isn't a foreign army. Our greatest threat is not some distant enemy over the next hill. Our greatest threat is undeclared war. It's his insidious influence on the military-industrial complex that President Eisenhower warned us about in that famous address. Beware of the military-industrial complex. That convergence of corporate interests, defense contractors, and lobbyists whose claws are deep in our government pull on the strings and manipulate our country into wars without end, wars with no plan for victory, and wars with no oversight from the people. I may be the one person on the stage today that is not, to my core, anti-war. I do not believe in war if it has not been properly declared. There is a just war theory that's been presented by Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas and some of the great thinkers that came thousands of years before us. Just war must have the proper authorization of the people that it's being fought on behalf of.
Amen.
Folks, I want you to look around. I want you to look around these beautiful buildings, this tall monument, this beautiful park, the reflecting pool behind us. I want you to look around. This is the war machine right here. Every inch of it, every building, every house, every tree, every blade of grass in this swamp is part of the war machine. You go down K Street and look at the glass and steel buildings. They're all filled with military-industrial complex, defense contractors, weapons manufacturers, and people that are getting rich sending your sons and daughters to war while they sit cozy in a swamp in Washington, D.C. I'm here to tell you there's a way for us to save ourselves. There's a way to defend this country, and it's a way that can be done the way it's supposed to be done. It's called Defend the Guard. I served collectively for 13 years in the United States Army, Marine Corps, and Idaho Army National Guard. My boots were on the ground in the global war on terror, and I love this country to my core. I love the men and women who wear the uniform of this country. I respect and I admire their professionalism, their courage, and their dedication. So let me be as clear as I can. We must stop sending them into these unjust and undeclared wars that do nothing to defend our nation. The wars of the past 25 years have only served the interests of a corrupt political class and a bloated weapons industry. Now let me take just one moment, thank you. Let me take one moment and speak directly about the National Guard. These men and women who are supposed to be the backbone of their communities have been abused. They're supposed to be here, defending our lives, our property, and our country from a lawless invasion. They're supposed to be here defending our streets. They're supposed to be here responding to natural disasters. They're supposed to be here standing as a safeguard during times of national, state, and local emergency. State and community readiness and the defense of the American soil has taken a distant back seat to the global and financial interests of the war profiteers and the machine that they abuse for blood profits. Our National Guard are routinely being sent off to foreign lands to fight in wars that have no end. And I've spoken with guardsmen around the country. We travel all over the country with this effort. And I talk to folks that are fathers and mothers and sons and daughters who signed up because they wanted to serve their country and they wanted to serve their communities. They wanted to be there in a time of crisis. They wanted to be there as the wall to defend their neighbors and their friends and their family. And even though they've been abused, they've served with great distinction and honor in places like Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria, fighting battles that have nothing to do with keeping America safe. One guardsman I met recently from Alabama told me that in 2018, his unit was deployed to Afghanistan for the second time. While they were there, his home state was hit by a series of devastating tornadoes, followed by looting and lawlessness. By the way, does anybody know what the constitutional purpose of the National Guard is? There's three of them. The first one is to defend the laws of the Union. The second is to put down an insurrection. And the third is to repel an invasion. That first one, defend the laws of the Union. The National Guard should be there when lawlessness and looting starts. Homes were destroyed, lives were lost, property was stolen. And where was he? He wasn't in Mobile, Alabama. He wasn't there helping his friends and family. He wasn't there picking up the pieces. He was half a world away, serving in a war that he couldn't find on a map before he went. Another National Guardsman from California shared a story with me about how he was activated to fight wildfires in California. But before he could respond, before he could even show up, he had orders and was deployed to Syria. His heart was in California, where his family lived under constant threat of fires, but he had to go defend oil wells in Syria. Yeah. In 2005, the Louisiana National Guard, a unit of combat engineers, was deployed to Iraq. At the same time, Hurricane Katrina bared down on their coast and destroyed their community, and Louisiana was thrust into a state of emergency and devastating destruction. They should have been in New Orleans and Baton Rouge, using their training and their equipment and their professionalism to build roads and bridges and dams and levees. But instead, they were in Baghdad and Ramadi, building roads and bridges and levees and dams. That should make us sick to our core. Why are we doing this? We've got to stop. Dick Cheney and Dom's Rumsfeld, their apocalyptic mess in Iraq has taken too many lives, too many resources from the state. This isn't just a handful of cases. It's been happening for decades. The National Guard has been turned into the de facto extension of our federal war machine, a resource to be used and abused by the Washington elite while our communities are left vulnerable. This is not what the National Guard was meant to be. These are our neighbors, our first responders, our teachers, our mechanics, our tradesmen. And when national disaster strikes, we need them at home. Defend the Guard legislation. Let me talk for a moment about what this is. Defend the Guard cuts the legs out from underneath the war machine. It's simple, it's constitutional, it's powerful. The legislation is simple. It says this: if Congress can't muster the stones to put their name on the line and declare war, then we're not going. That's the legislation.
Amen.
Congress must put their name on the line before we put our boots on the ground. And if they can't do that one simple thing, I've got nothing left for them. I'll leave DC and go back to the States where the fight is real. This is how we bring our troops home. This is how we rein in the federal government whose interests have become alien to our own. This is how we prove that the Beltway, that we the people have the final say. If you're one of those patriots who is here willingly standing shoulder to shoulder with other patriots opposed to these wars, then I challenge you to do your duty and enlist in our movement. By visiting defendtheguard.us, sign our petition and help us in the fight. This veteran-led movement is not about stopping one war. It's about restoring the balance of power in our country. It's about reassuring our rights, the rights of the state and of the people. It's about permanently securing our future from the death grips of the crooked, imperialistic political class. Let me close by echoing the wisdom of the great former Secretary of State Daniel Webster, who said this: it will be the solemn duty of the state government to protect their own authority over their own militia and to interpose between their citizens and the arbitrary power of the federal government. Folks, we've had our bill introduced now in over 30 states with legislative sponsors in places like Arizona and Idaho, Maryland, Maine, New Hampshire, Georgia, Texas. We got Defend the Guard on the ballot in Texas this year under Proposition 6. And in Texas, it received 1.869 million and 83% of the vote. Donald Trump got 1.8 million and 77%. This legislation is more powerful, more popular, and more prevalent in Texas than Donald Trump. This movement has legs.
All right.
I'll leave you with one thought.
There we go. English road.
The inheritors
Military.
of what our founding fathers left with us. Our founding fathers, first of all, believed that the states and the people were going to be the balance of a federal of this republic, this experiment. And I believe that if the founding fathers were here today, they'd be standing right here on the stage with us. They'd be right here on this platform demanding that Congress do its goddamn job. The inheritors, today's politicians, today's political elite, there's some good ones. And we've been endorsed. This movement's been supported, endorsed by Ron Paul, by Rand Paul, by Thomas Massey, by Tulsi Gabbard, by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., by Vivek Ramaswamy, by Dave Smith, Scott Horton, and Jimmy Dore. All believe that Defend the Guard is the way forward, so visit defendtheguard.us. Please stand with us, sign the petition, become enlisted in our movement, and join us, because Boise, and not the Beltway, will stop the war machine. Thank you very much.
Woo! God bless him.
Thank you so much to Dan McNight. Up next, we're going to hear from Garland Nixon, political commentator and radio talk show host. Thank you.
Good afternoon. You know, I think it's important now, for me particularly, since I'm probably, the furthest left here on stage, to discuss that particular issue. I think it's critical because of the things that I hear about political ideology. And I think what we have to understand now is that the traditional concepts of left and right and far left and far right and center and who's who, etc., have to be re-examined. I get heat for this and stuff like this. I get people that text me and email, well, what are you doing with hanging out with these far right wing, the crazies, the Schiller Institute people, the libertarians, etc. And my position is, so the people who don't want nuclear war, the people that don't want to align with literal Nazis, the people who want a peaceful existence with others in the world, they're the crazies now? If that is the case, tag me as one of the crazies.
That's all right. Well
if that's
said.
our society now, that the crazy people are the ones that want peace, then the sane people are going in the wrong direction. But I believe that there's an opportunity now to go in a different direction. I believe that there is an opportunity now for people to move away from you're a fascist, you're a socialist, you're a communist, whatever name we use to call people, to start examining politics through the outcome. What is it we ultimately want? As far as I'm concerned, when they ask me about libertarians, I say, well, I agree with them here. If I believe something, I should make my point, they should make their point, and the people should vote, and whoever wins, if you lose, you say, darn, I lost, but I'll be back next time. But now we're dealing with a ruling elite that doesn't believe that at all. They are literally not only at war with the world, but because they are at war with the world, they're at war with their own people. They're at war with us. I think what we have to understand is, don't get mad at the victims. Here's what I mean. Rather than look at the people who are wandering around voicing these absurd talking points, rather than get angry at them, I think we have to understand that they've been gaslit and propagandized. That we have to see them, that rather not as our enemies, not as evil people, but people who have been lied to. Fortunately for people here, we don't have any trust for the government in the first place, so it doesn't matter if they lie to us. We're not going to believe anything they say. We start off from a position of, well, we know they're lying. Why are they lying? What are they lying about? But there are a lot of people, unfortunately, that don't have that. And I think the important thing to understand is not to see anyone as enemies except the people who see us as enemies, and that's the ruling elite. That's the people who right now, and I believe this, people may disagree, who say we got a $35 trillion deficit that's growing out of control and we don't know, and there's no way to fix it. And as economists say, unpayable bills will not get paid. So what are we going to do? I know blow up the world economy, start a war with China, destroy the oil infrastructure in the Middle East. We will wipe out the world economy, and then we don't have to pay that bill. I believe that the issue of war and economics is inextricably linked. And it's important for us to understand that when people argue about the Fed or what they're doing or the economics or whatever the case may be, that we understand that is the driver of war for these people. That's why they have this driver to war. But right now, as has been said in the past, what was said was this: any port in a storm. I'm sure you've heard that, meaning that, hey, when times are tough, we got to all come together. But I think what we have now is far bigger than that. I think we have an opportunity for people to come together and to understand that we have common goals and we have common threats. And that those threats are not the unvaccinated guy that lives next door. The threat is not your neighbor up the street who's been so gaslit that he thinks that the Dick Cheney Democrats are now the far left communists or whatever. That the threat is the belief that your neighbor next door is your enemy. That's the threat to you, because as long as they can keep us angry and divided, they're in power, they're in strict. Some people may not have heard of this term Bonapartism. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Wherein factions of the ruling elite fight. And what do? They don't have enough people to fight together. So the factions of the ruling elite say, we're going to get some of these masses to join with us. And the other factions say, we'll get some of these masses to join with us. And then they get us to fight each other on behalf of their needs. And I think what we have to understand when we look at Europe, right? We were told that Viktor Orban was some crazy person and he's a far right-wing lunatic. He must be stopped. But then in Slovakia, they elected a guy named Robert Fico, who's an old-fashioned lefty, from the legacy of Soviet communism. But both of those people agreed that I should look out for the best interest of my country. And next thing you know, there's bullets flying at Robert Fico. So what they want us to do is argue over the so-called ideologies and ideological differences. They don't see that. They see a threat. They see Robert Fico and Viktor Orban through the exact same lens. They are a threat because they want sovereignty. They want nationalism is bad. Well, if in fact your idea of nationalism is my country is good so I hate yours, that's a problem. But if your idea of nationalism is I like my country, I like my culture, I have proud it, and we're going to make ours better and you should make yours better too, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what we saw. And I think so what we have to wake up to is the reality that we are one people in America. We have differences, we have different cultures, different beliefs, different religions, etc. But in order for us to survive, we've got to work together. And this weekend, I hope everybody comes back tomorrow. This weekend is about building that. Something that made me really happy was to watch a Trump rally. And there's RFK Jr. And he's like, hey, screw these corporations. They're doing us dirty. And I'm like, there's all of these conservative Trump supporters. Yay! And I'm like, I was told that conservatives wouldn't be pissed at Monsanto. And then I talked to Trump support. What do you think about Monsanto? Oh, I hate their guts. And I'm like, wow, I think I've been lied to. I think that all of the working class people out here are coming to the same conclusion. And since we're all coming to that same conclusion, we've got to take the same actions to address those conclusions. Yeah. And again, I'm a third-party guy. A lot of people here are third-party guys. I want to see third-party. You're the third party of your choice. Whoever you want to vote for, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. But I think that what we have to understand is the true threat, and the threat is nuclear annihilation. The threat is not going to go away this weekend if we don't have a war with Russia. Hopefully we'll all die. Too. But that threat ain't going to go away, because if they can spread their war in the Middle East, that'll wipe out our economy. They're perfectly happy to get that as a consolation prize. If they get their war with China, well, that probably ends up nuclear and we all die. That the threat doesn't go away, that we have to address the long-term threat, and that this particular weekend of activities should be viewed as the beginning, as the foundation of something moving forward, not as an end and a means in of itself. But that we're going to meet people, we're going to meet social media influencers, we're going to meet friends, and if you wander around this crowd, I'm sure there's some feds, say hi to them too. You know, they're going to help even out the crowd a little bit. But whatever the case, that we have to look at this as something we're going to build on, and I hope everybody here comes together. I hope everybody here particularly, meet people who you're not ideologically aligned with. And shake their hands and understand that they're humans and they have the same problems. Meet people here who you would not normally meet, who you would not normally hang out with. That's what's important, and we can start building on that. That's the biggest fear of the ruling elite, is that the American people will come together and say, you know what, we may not have a democracy now, because I don't believe we got one, or a republic, whatever you want to call it. We ain't got one right now. Anytime I got to watch a hostage video of one of the presidential candidates every other week, where it's like, yeah, the Iranians, yeah, they're the ones trying to kill me. I don't think Trump believes that. I think he understands that the Iranians are in Langley, Virginia. But you know, he's got to say that to hopefully survive another week or two. But I think we understand the direction this thing is going. We're all going to work together. I appreciate everybody getting involved here. Don't make this an end. Make this a start, and we'll move forward. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. They'll say his name again, I think. He has a radio. Did you remember his name? Oh my gosh. I'm hoping they'll say it again. Thanks. So if you go to, I listed the website under the description. If you go to the website, it has all the speakers listed. You'll see Ivan on there too. He's going to be speaking. And of course, we love our Ivan. And I'm sure that that was the gentleman that has a radio show here in Washington, D.C. I apologize. My short-term memory is not so good. Thanks for being here, everybody. God bless you all. I love how he said that this whole weekend is like a new beginning to move forward from. This is an epic weekend here in DC. We'll be out here tomorrow. Rally for the Republic. Hello, we got Great Britain in the house. What's up, English Rose? Garland Nixon. Oh, thank you so much, Wyman girl. That was fast. Garland Nixon. Yeah, I like what he said. That was good stuff.
Y'all hear me? Next up, we have an amazing guest. We've got a renowned artist and musician. He's performed before for Disney with Rihanna and Jason Mraz. He is the founder of Deepak World. He's the songsmith for Team Humanity. And he's the music behind the series Plandemic and Plandemic the Musical. My friend, Deepak.
All right. Plandemic and Plandemic the Musical. I didn't know they made a musical. So this is definitely not as big as last year, but hopefully more people are coming in.
What's going on, everybody? Everybody make some noise out there. Rage Against the War Machine.
Woo!
My name is Deepak, and I'm excited to be out here with you guys. I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes about what's going on with the world and about consciousness. See, we have a lot of stuff we're talking about against war. And war, we have to discuss how to get to a place, not just systemically, but as humans, where we end the war within ourselves, which is a big part of what's happening. And so it's really beyond, we have to realize that we are the ones that we've been waiting for, and that the empowerment comes from inside. Because if we can fix all this stuff on the surface, but if our consciousness doesn't shift, if we don't shift into a place where we're creating the separation, creating the mentality of the other, we're going to get right back to where we started again. Because as a people, as a humanity, it's really up to us to go, hey, how can I start bridging the divide? We might have the right ideas, we might have all these things, but if we're still looking at other people that we don't agree with and creating a separation with them and not finding common ground, we're always going to be in this polarized space. So beyond all that, we can always look and go, hey, you know, the systems are doing this and the media is doing this, and it could be all true, of course it is, and that the food systems aren't healthy. But then at the end of the day, it's still up to us to make the choices right now to choose to eat better food, right? You know, if we wait for the system to get healthier and to get us to be healthier, we're gonna be waiting a long time. So I just wanted to put that out there that, you know, there's nothing to wait for. We got this right here, right now. Does that make sense, everybody? We can do it now. We can choose right now to be healthy. We can choose right now to not participate in these wars, to not fund these wars with our tax dollars, to stand up as a people. And if we have gatherings like this and tomorrow where millions of people start doing these moves like we've done in the past, we've seen it in the past with boycotts and certain types of things where you can make a little dent. But imagine everyone getting aligned, getting on the same page, millions of people, and all saying, hey, we're gonna activate, we're gonna do this one move tomorrow where everyone doesn't spend money here, doesn't spend money there, or takes a stand to not fund certain things. All of a sudden, we start making a dent and removing the power from the system. Because at the end of the day, as a people, we've been outsourcing our power for a long time, finding these codependent relationships with systems that just aren't there to serve us. And we had to start stepping up and serving ourselves and serving each other and serving our communities and stepping into stewardship and responsibility and personal ownership of everything and get out of the blame conversation that we have where they're doing this to us and we're waiting for this new false idol or the next politician to solve and lead for us. And when they get in office, then everything's going to be all good. And you know what? We should support people getting in office that we believe in, but we really got to step ahead of that because, you know, every election, every 4 years, we all get excited and activated and everyone's suddenly listening right now. We're only listening right now because there's another election. But what about when the election's over? Are we going to fall back asleep for another 4 years? We can't do that anymore. That's what the Great Awakening means. We're all in the Great Awakening, are we not? Yes?
Yeah.
And the Great Awakening is about waking up right now and staying awake, staying activated forever. From now on, we are going to stay awake, stay active, stay vigilant, stay in communication, and lose our codependent relationships on the mainstream media and these places that give us information and step into the new technologies that are coming up around AI and blockchain and decentralized social media platforms. And as we start jumping on those, all of our complaints about censorship go away because now we're taking the power back into our own hands. We're taking communication back into our own hands. We're taking these wars and we're saying we're not going to be a part of that and we're going to rise up as Team Humanity, everybody. Make some noise, say Team Humanity.
Awesome.
That's right.
Y'all remember Deepak from Freedom Corner?
So y'all check out teamhumanity.world. We're going to do some music for you guys. I'm going to introduce my bro to the stage, Johnny Twilight, and pretty soon we're going to have my other homie, Spirit's going to join us on the stage in just a second here. Let me set this up just a little bit better so I can reach everything. And we've been writing songs for a little while, and the idea of these songs is that we know people like Bob Marley, people like the Beatles, when you have a nice anthem like Michael Jackson, Heal the World, these songs themselves can be a movement on their own, because once you start getting a song in your head, you can bridge that divide, you can open up hearts in a different way than just talking in that left brain cerebral way. You can get into that heart space, the right brain, the balance of logic and emotion, sing along together and get that much more aligned, and then spread the song virally so we can have it. It's another way of communicating a message to a large amount of people when you have anthems. So we're going to sing some songs for you guys. We hope you dig them. Once again, my name is Deepak, spelled D-P-A-K. We hope you enjoy the songs. Thank you so much. Once again, teamhumanity.world.
Right,
Check it out.
Deepak, come back to Freedom Corner. We miss you.
We can all see you bleeding for freedom. Don't you see where it's leading? Now haven't you had enough? Don't wanna see another battlefield for a chosen son, another bed of ashes for the missing ones who came to God's corner with a loaded gun. Was it for nothing? And now it's up
God's
to
corner.
you to tame my wild. And a holy bed, and now you hear it say,
story, turning faces. Can you make it? Take a chance now. This is who we are.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Spirit, come to the stage.
Wow.
Yeah. The Renaissance is upon us. There's nothing you can do about it. Disable the dislikes, disable the comments. People they lines, that's called being honest. Hold up. Yeah.
They aren't afraid of the unafraid. Messing with us was a big mistake. We're stopping the wars and we're stopping the pain. Get out of the way, we got the people to say. I guess they forgot it's the land of the free. I guess they forgot it's the home of the great. I think it's time we remind them. Yeah, I think it's time we remind them. I guess they forgot it's the land of the free. I guess they forgot it's the home of the great. I think it's time we remind them. Yeah, I think it's time we remind them. I guess they forgot it's the land of the free. I guess they forgot it's the home of the brave. I think it's time to remind them. I think it's time to remind them. I guess they forgot it's the land of the free. I guess they forgot it's the home of the brave. I think it's time to remind them. I think it's time to remind them.
Wow. Wow. That was
Ladies and
huge.
gentlemen, put your hands together. This song is called Let the Freedom Ring. And it's in the musical Plandemic the Musical coming out on October 10th, everybody. October 10th, plandemicthemusical.com.
Now we know we've always been free. Love each other even if we disagree. It's all inside, shine the light and sing. Let the freedom ring. Now we know we've always been free. Love each other even if we disagree. It's all inside, shine the light and sing. Let the freedom ring. Oh, let the freedom ring. Gonna let that freedom ring. Let the freedom ring. Gonna let that freedom ring. Gonna let that freedom ring. Gonna let that freedom ring. Let the freedom ring. Gonna let that freedom ring. Gonna let that freedom ring. Gonna let that freedom ring. Let the freedom ring.
Y'all aren't dancing yet. Get up and dance.
Everybody. So, just want to tell you a little bit about this next song before we started. So, have you guys heard of the Independent National Convention? Everybody, make some noise if you guys are about that. Yes, I know some of you guys I just saw there. We were just in Denver last weekend. And what that is really thinking long term about the word independence and stepping out of the party mentality and stepping into what it is to be as humans, to be independent with our choices, right? So we all have the right that's God-born, God-given for free speech. Everyone, you guys down with free speech? I know I am. We're up here right now speaking freely. And that's our right to do it. We don't need someone else. We don't need Big Daddy to tell us we're free. We're born free. We're always free no matter what.
That's
right. I think that's what the reminder is of the Great Awakening, is stepping into just knowing it. Knowing in our hearts, knowing in our bodies, and our souls, and our spirits that we're already free, and that our actions are going to show that. And that when we're the only ones that can give up power with our choices. When we comply, when we do things that we don't believe in, it's on us. And stepping into that mentality, that self-empowerment, that personal responsibility mentality of going, hey, you know what? It's on us to do that. It's on us to show up here. It's on us to act in our perfect alignment with our bodies, our spirits, our minds. And so that's what the vibe is all about. So the Independent National Convention was a great reminder of that, of like how we're independent. The Declaration of Independence was a wild and crazy declaration of people like us coming forward and saying, hey, we're going to make a declaration that we're independent. We're free of the binds of external authorities that are not here to serve us, and we're going to declare that, and we're going to say that, and guess what? We can do that right now every single day of our lives. We can be independent right now and declare it every day. It's not just some document from a couple hundred years ago that made a country. It's actually our own individual declarations to be independent every moment. So we just had this INC last weekend and the year before where we wrote an anthem called Together We Rise, which is also now the closing theme of Plandemic the musical. We're going to sing it for you guys. It's coming out. It's not even out yet, but it's going to be coming out on October 17th. So if you guys once again go to teamhumanity.world, you can sign up right there and stay in the loop for us. We want to build community with you guys so you guys can get the latest word on what's coming out with Plandemic, with other music, with other movements like this. So we're all on the same page. We're all in community. We can let you guys know when more amazing freedom events are happening so that we can have a lot more people showing up to these things. So join teamhumanity.world to get the info. Let's kick the next track out. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right. I think the communists and the other groups that were out last year kind of realized this wasn't really about that.
Rise up from the ashes.
More about unity, standing up for our constitutional republic.
Flames. See through the lies that feed the fires that we create. Come out from the shadows. Come out in plain sight. Nothing to lose, it's time to move into the light. Together, united, deny it or fight it, no more hiding anymore. Our story, we write it or lose it, we can't keep quiet anymore. 'Cause together we will rise, together we will rise, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer. It's our time, yeah. 'Cause it's our time. Together we will rise. Together we will rise. Together we will rise. Can't wait any longer. It's our time, yeah. 'Cause it's our time. Oh.
Rage Against the War Machine, make some noise out there.
Woo! Yeah!
Now we're fighting for the lives of our sons and daughters. It's a war we're gonna lose if we divide ourselves apart. Yeah, it's time to rip the man that covers everything. The talking heads that wanna make us blind. And when we strike back, shoot love into the skies. Together, united, deny it or fight it, no more hiding anymore. Our story, we write it or lose it, we can't keep quiet anymore. 'Cause together we will rise, together we will rise, sing it. Together we will rise, can't wait any longer. It's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time. Together we will rise. Together we will rise.
Thanks, Beverly.
Together we will rise. Can't wait any longer. It's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time. Together we will rise. Together we will rise. Together we will rise. Can't wait any longer. It's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time. Together we will rise. Together we will rise. Together we will rise. Can't wait any longer. It's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time.
Woo! Yeah!
Thank you guys.
Wow!
Thank you all so much for having us up here. We're going to be here again tomorrow at Rescue the Republic. Once again, this is Rage Against the War Machine. I am Deepak. That's Johnny Twilight. And we got Spirit in the building,
Yeah.
Spirit Realm. Check out teamhumanity.world, Deepak World. We're gonna see you online. If you guys want to shoot, if you shot any videos today, please post them and tag us. We're doing a contest this weekend of everyone who tags us, and you guys are gonna win some merch, some Team Humanity t-shirts. So go ahead and post on Deepak World on Twitter and on Instagram, and hopefully you get yourselves some t-shirts and some merch if you win the contest for tagging. Thank you so much once again, and we'll see you tomorrow again at Rescue the Republic. Amazing speakers coming up. Thank you, everybody.
Woo, that was awesome. Wow. That was epic. I love that. Those three guys sound amazing together. What a tenor voice that other guy had. Y'all remember Deepak from Freedom Corner when they came down?
Stay tuned. We're going to hear from Clint Russell, Josie the Redheaded Libertarian, and Dan McAdams all together.
All right. So there's more people coming out. There's a lot of people that are over here in the shade, sitting under this big tree, because they put the flooring down, so it's like super hot. It was pretty hot at Lincoln Memorial last year too, but this is pretty hot. The sun's like bouncing off. I'm standing in this little bit of shade from the fence, and I've got my trusty What's been forgotten, honey? Come and tell us.
Our future.
Yes.
Nobody's mentioned our future. How are we going to prevent our... We know how they're trying to prevent us from having a future, but our future has to be based on building the physical assets we need to go into the future.
Who do you think is going to be able to help us do that in the next administration? Who do you think is best equipped to help us?
Share is running on that platform.
Oh, for U.S. Senate now. What about the administration for the president?
Nobody has anything relevant to a new Hamilton banking system that issues a credit, gives a credit out to increase into the areas that will increase the productivity and the living standards, the physical living standards of the population, and give them the ability to pay back the credit. And as the payback of the credit is issued to Hamilton's National Bank, it is reissued as credit to the next higher platform of technology development.
So are you saying that we should have a credit from our government? That we should all be indebted to our government?
No, not the existing government. We should change the Federal Reserve into a Hamilton National Bank.
But then we would still be indebted to a bank and to another authority other than ourselves and God.
No, because the debt we have the ability to pay it back with the Hamilton.
Isn't that kind of like being an indentured servant?
Never again. In other words, there will not be any more of this inflation happening. That keeps us always behind in our wages.
Okay, so you're anti-capitalism, I take it, no?
No, it's not capitalism. Okay. It's a Hamilton system based on the physical harmony principles of harmonic development.
Harmonic development.
The future.
Okay, I'll have to look it up. I don't know much about it.
It's not socialism.
It's not communism?
No, it's not communism.
Okay.
It's what Alexander Hamilton set up as the first Secretary of Treasury under George Washington. And
administration.
The banking system is owned by, it owns all the universities. No university would ever teach us.
And who owns the bank?
What?
Who owns the bank?
The oligarch system runs the banking.
Oligarch? No. What happened to we the people? What happened to we the people?
Ah, yes, they took it over. The oligarch system.
No, we don't want an oligarch system.
No, we don't. No.
So in the Hamilton bank system, who owns the bank?
The government of and for and by the people.
Okay, so you're still we the people.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
That's what I was trying to find out.
In fact, the directors would not be privately owned bankers that are running the Federal Reserve, but they will be elected by the people as directors to issue the credit.
Apologies
into
for the technical
areas that
difficulties. Thank you for
rapidly
hanging with us.
increase the development of our nation based on peace instead of war.
Right. And do you feel like that with human nature that that's ever going to be possible?
I'm Clint Russell, host of
Depends on
Liberty
your
Lockdown, as well as a whole bunch of other
Right.
podcasts. What's up, guys?
I understand.
I'm joined today by Josie, the redheaded libertarian of Timcast IRL fame.
If
How
we're
are you doing,
educated to be
Josie?
human
Hi,
beings,
everybody.
we will become
And we are
human
joined by a
beings.
very
God
special
bless you.
guest,
Thank you. God
Mr.
bless
Daniel
you.
McAdams of the Ron Paul
Let me just show
Reform
everybody here.
Institute, the whole 9 yards.
Let me show them her picture.
Thank you, Clint. Welcome, peace lovers.
There we go. Okay.
Also,
Thank you.
Not a moment to spare.
Here, let me hear them.
All right, so
I have
let's
a
get
whole lot
started
of
with the
people
big
watching,
news.
so let me get this group here.
Big news is
Thank
that
you.
it appears,
Okay, thank you
the
very
reports
much.
are that the leader of Hezbollah was struck by Israel and assassinated yesterday. I don't know,
Good.
first off, I don't know if you have any confirmation that that's true. What does that portend for that conflict, American involvement? Where do you think this is headed?
Well, unfortunately, I think it will deepen the conflict. The question is whether Iran will respond. Thus far, they've been very hesitant to respond. It would be a major escalation if they became involved, and I don't think they really want to become involved. But nevertheless, we have a lot of military resources there. The U.S. has provided the bombs that killed Nasrallah. They provided the bombs that have killed everyone in Lebanon, and they didn't just kill the heads of Hezbollah. They've killed over 1,000 women and children, innocent people, civilians. So the war is expanding, and it's made in America, unfortunately. Our money, we just shipped over another $8.7 billion worth of military equipment. That's our money, underwritten by Americans. So this is our war.
That on top of hundreds of billions to Ukraine. And yet, inflation here is not feeling so hot. I think that oftentimes people forget that there are domestic consequences for the foreign military adventurism. From an Austrian school to try and translate for the non-libertarians in the audience, how would you do that?
Well, we pay for it indirectly. I mean, it would be better if we were just taxed and say, hey, we want to have a war, we want to go ahead and support Israel, we need everyone to chip in a couple grand. Then it would be something very directly. But what they do, which is the most insidious form of taxation, which is inflation. They inflate the value of the dollar away. And so you get less products for the amount of money that you spend. And of course, that hurts the poor the most because the poor can least afford inflation. So that's how they hide. That's how the Fed is the reason why we're able to have a global military empire. And it's on the back of all Americans.
So it's not a coincidence that the century of total militarism coincided with the era of central banking.
Yeah, I mean, there's a misconception that and the Fed is kind of a geeky Austrian quirky thing, but it's most directly, and even Rothbard came to believe at the end that war is the key issue, and the Fed is the institution that enables us to continue with war.
So can you tell everybody in our audience a little bit about the mission of your institute?
Sure. Well, we started when Congressman Ron Paul left office in 2013. We started the Ron Paul Institute. We've been going now for 11 years or so. We do a yearly conference in D.C. We just finished having it. It was over the Labor Day weekend. Our mission is educational. So it's not about politics. It's not about getting people elected. It's about educating people, continuing Dr. Paul's mission, especially young people, to the values that we have, to liberty and to peace.
And how are you working that into this election cycle?
Well, we don't get involved in elections at all, but it's actually quite easy because we stand on principles. As everyone who's familiar with Dr. Paul knows, he's never changed his message. And it made it, I worked for him for 12 years on the Hill. It made it very easy for staffers because we already knew the guidelines, our principles that we stand on. So anything that happened was just judged against those. Unlike most politicians who put their fingers up to the wind and say, how's this going to help me in this part of my district? It was, here's the framework, and everything just fits into it.
So everything just comes back to liberty. There's no changing moral framework. There's just the one framework, and that just makes your job very easy.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Paul tells a story when we had a largely rural district in Texas for many years, and there are people that we knew very well, and they did some redistricting, and they included NASA and all of that area that was a lot of government workers, and a lot of people who were very different from our farmers and rice farmers in Brazoria County and elsewhere. And that someone asked Dr. Paul once, well, how are you going to change your message to try to appeal to all of these government workers over here, your new constituents? He said, what are you talking about? I'm not going to change my message. It's the same message. And of course, it was difficult those first couple of years to explain it, but once they got it, they became great supporters.
There's been reports from Congressman Matt Gaetz out of Florida that there are multiple alleged hit squads that are hunting Donald Trump actively. It appears that Donald Trump has bought into this intel narrative as well. I'm sure you can understand my skepticism, given that we have been propagandized to believe that Iran is on the precipice of having a nuclear weapon for as long as I've been alive, and now they are being blamed for these multiple attacks on Donald Trump's life. I do believe that Donald Trump is under threat. I'm not at all certain that it comes from the Iranians. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Well, I'm going to talk about this a little later too, but it's interesting because the latest threat against President Trump, this crazy guy, he basically endorsed the entire Ukraine narrative. The guy was no different than anything you'd see on MSNBC or Fox or whatever. He was the mainstream narrative on Ukraine. And now he's taken it to the logical conclusion that Trump is a threat to this war, to end all wars, and so something has got to be done about him. Well, that's what they've all been saying all along, and so boom, we switched the narrative. Russiagate, Avril Haines, she worked with John Brennan to concoct the Russiagate scam in 2016. She rolls in and says, hey, guess what, Trump, it's all the Iranians, and sadly, so far he's lapped it up. And that's not to say that they're incapable of doing it, or even that they may well be behind it, but again, when you start sniffing around at who's doing what and what they're trying to cover up and what narrative they're trying to put out, it doesn't hold water for me.
Yeah, I think anybody who's paid attention to war propaganda for any amount of time, when you start to hear, without evidence, just claims that Iran is responsible, it should raise an eyebrow at least. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we're facing an existential threat of World War III, but also within our country, we're facing an existential threat of the fabric of our country, whether it's this transing children agenda or abortion to the point of birth. We have the southern border. So how would you take liberty and fix all these problems with it?
It's sad to see what's happening to our country because, and it's sort of cliche to say, well, we're divided. I think what's happened is that politics has become so important, it's become a national religion. And if you're not in my religion, then I hate your guts. And that's simply because the state is too strong. The stakes are too high. When you have $200 billion sent by the U.S. to fund this absurd war in Ukraine, people will knife you for $20. Think what they'll do for $200 billion. So the stakes are way too high. The government is way too big. And I think you have to strike the root, and that's the root.
We're kind of facing what would appear to be communism when it comes to, because communism is kind of the opposite of liberty when it comes to this. So what's under attack? Our family, our religion, our history, our borders, our pride, our truth. So what would the path be to cancel out the communism and replace it with liberty?
Well, unfortunately, there's not an easy fix, and I wish there was, because we've been sort of plugging away for 11 years, and Dr. Paul has been plugging away for, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 years. But the answer is education, and it's a slow process. And Dr. Paul always talks about how Leonard Reed of the Free talks about first educate yourself. I mean, there's a tendency, and I'm not criticizing anyone, but there's a tendency of everyone wanting to be an activist. They want to get involved in politics. Politics is sexy, politics is the here and now. You raise a lot of money, it's exciting. There's an absolute end date, Whereas education is the long run. It's the long game, and it can be more difficult. But until people come to understand these fundamentals, understand how is it that we have all these wars? Who facilitates it? And who benefits from it? And who benefits from all of these other agendas? Until we understand these things, it's very difficult to fight back.
Now, I know you don't get involved in politics, but would you say abolishing the Department of Education might be a good start?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a great start. But, you know, there's a great homeschool movement going on in the United States, you know, and I live in Texas, Brazoria County. I tell you what, there's probably not a county in the country that hates the state more than Brazoria County, Texas. And we have a very strong homeschoolers association, and they don't want to have, they don't want to have the government have any part of education. They don't want school choice. They don't want anything. Just get the heck away. And so I think if we can free up homeschooling and make it available, Dr. Paul has his own curriculum, but there are plenty of other great ones out there, and raise kids that can't be tamed. That's what it's all about.
Kamala Harris has signaled she'll maintain the same foreign policy when it comes to Ukraine, largely the same thing with Israel as well. Trump seems to be all in on war with Iran. We'll see if that comes to pass. It doesn't seem as if there is truly a viable candidate for peace in this election. Doesn't seem as if there's been one basically my entire life, except for when Dr. Paul was running.
What don't they understand about Trump didn't have any wars during his last presidency?
Recommend people analyze these decisions?
I mean, it depends on if you want to participate in the system, you know. I mean, I don't vote because I don't want to participate in the system. And people may get angry about that, but that's just how I've just come to deal with what we have. With you saying no good choices. You know, I mean, I was looking very favorably at RFK Jr.'s campaign, but he did a couple of things on foreign policy that I simply couldn't get on board with, and it's very unfortunate. I was ready to break my streak of 30-some years.
You and me both, and then it was actually that interview with our mutual friend Dave Smith, where he goes about as hard in the paint for Israel as I've ever seen a candidate go. And I was like, oh, we don't have a non-interventionist guy here, that's for sure.
Yeah, again, it goes back to principles. You don't pick this country to support and this country to not support and this one to undermine. You know, the U.S. right now is trying to undermine Georgia because Georgia passed a law saying that the country, Georgia, because Georgia passed a law saying, hey, if your NGOs are funded by foreign governments, you have to claim it, just like we have the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And because they passed that law through their duly elected parliament, the U.S. is not only putting the leaders under sanctions, but they're trying to do a color revolution to overthrow them. So it's this massive hypocrisy of the U.S. government overseas. You know, I wish RFK would have said, hey, yeah, of course I support Israel. I support every country. I want free trade and commerce with all of them, you know, but no entangling alliances. Where did I hear that before? I mean, it's simple.
Do you believe the federal government is necessary to any extent, or are you all in for the 10th Amendment? Do you believe that the federal government is necessary to an extent, or are you all in for the 10th Amendment?
No, I mean, yeah, I'm an anarchist, but if the government did the stuff it was supposed to do, that would be fine. Follow the Constitution. It's, you know, that's Dr. Paul. It's really not that hard. It's really not that hard to do.
Yeah, there's 7 articles. It's very easy to
How can an
follow
anarchist
the
be
Constitution,
against
but
war? I don't
we see
understand.
a vast overreach of power. Do you believe that the way forward is the 10th Amendment?
Well, unfortunately, governance from your local city council on up, I mean, I hate to say it, with some exceptions, it attracts the worst kind of people. And that's what we saw with the COVID scam. It attracted, and we saw them because they finally took off the mask, they took off the velvet glove, and they showed you the iron fist. That's the kind of people government attracts. The busybodies who want to tell you what to do. And so the only way to deal with it, because they'll always be there, is to take away these levers of power that they have. That means to shrink everything down.
Agreed.
We've covered a lot of dark stuff. There's one rare bit of optimism of late, and that was the freeing of Julian Assange. I'm curious, what do you think about, yes, a round of applause. I mean, Gabriel Shipton, his brother, should be here in a few hours, which is amazing. I had interviewed him and his father, John, multiple times. The diehard nature of them as they stood by his side, regardless of the persecution he was dealing with, the thousands, if not millions, of supporters he had all across the world, truly inspirational. What I think got him ran afoul of the machine was when he released, in particular, the collateral murder video, which demonstrated the war crimes from the American military-industrial complex. Do you think it is that simple, that he shed light on the underbelly of the machine, or was it more complicated than that?
I think that's definitely part of it, but I think when he released that CIA stuff, that was it. His goose was cooked. The collateral murder stuff was bad. It made him look bad. But the CIA, how we spy on everyone, how we overthrow government stuff, that's what got him, I'm pretty sure. And Pompeo said it himself. It's a hostile foreign intelligence organization, not a publishing outfit,
Do you think that the treatment that he received was about him or more about sending a signal to all of the other journalists all over the world that we will abuse you and come very close to murdering you if you don't shut up?
Absolutely, and we're seeing it still happening. Not as bad, not as extreme as with Julian Assange, but we're seeing raids on houses of people we know, like Scott Ritter, who speaks out against the war in Ukraine, and that's the main reason. You're seeing attacks on RT. I mean, how is it the U.S. government feels it can tell us we're not allowed to watch propaganda? I mean, even if everything they said about RT was true, and it's just pure Putin propaganda, what the hell? We're allowed to watch propaganda. We can do whatever we want.
They usually are the ones funding it.
Yeah.
So what the hell?
They don't like the competition.
Do you believe that Donald Trump will free Ross Ulbricht?
He said he would, and I was there when he said it. So I hope he does. I mean, if he doesn't keep his word on this, it's going to look very bad for him. So I have confidence he's going to do it.
Is there an escape strategy to basically turn down the temperature? At this point, at least Donald Trump is giving it the proper lip service in that I want to see people stop dying. That's what I want to hear a leader actually say in this moment. I don't have a tremendous amount of faith because simultaneously, it was about 6 years ago he was bragging about how Obama would only send him blankets and he sent them bombs. Do you think that there is a hope if Trump is to win that we could actually avoid this war?
I think there's a chance if he wins that he'll do the right thing on some of these things. It may just be by accident. But what worries me about him is that he seems to continue to listen to the wrong people. And, unfortunately, our cadres of non-interventionists, because we are non-interventionists, we're not viewed as experts. I mean, my field is foreign policy. The only way you can advance as a foreign policy expert is if you want more foreign policy, right? So if you want less, then you're basically, writing yourself out of a job.
Whether it's Julian Assange or Donald Trump, we've seen lawfare weaponized against private citizens. How do we stop that?
Well, the tide turns, and it started with the fake pandemic. The Carib started then, but I mean, every one of these cases against Trump is falling one by one, and I think the pendulum does swing back eventually, and we have to be optimistic that it will. But lawfare is a dirty game, and they're playing it to great success.
Do you feel like the pendulum started to swing?
I do, and I mean, a lot of people disagree with the Supreme Court case on Trump, but I think there was a good justification for what they did. Now, a lot of libertarians disagree on that, but I think it was a response to lawfare.
Yes. Now we have an invasion at the southern border, and Donald Trump has promised mass deportations. I know when we look at trying to swing a pendulum strong the other way, sometimes that can turn into authoritarianism. Do you see a way to do mass deportations without checking for papers?
I mean, that's a tough question. Dr. Paul has always said, I did immigration for him. One of the things to do is to remove the perverse incentives for people to come. I mean, maybe it's all just propaganda, but we hear a lot of stories of people coming in and getting an unlimited card to go into the stores and this sort of thing, and just remove the incentives. I think would be a good start at least.
I agree.
Yeah, that's at its core. I think that's the libertarian answer: is remove the state incentives. Then those that actually want to come here will do so for the right reasons. Anyways, thank you guys so much for showing up. We're going to let time for the next speaker. I'm Clint Russell. We've got Daniel McAdams and Jocelyn Clayback. Thank you guys.
All right. That was interesting. I still don't understand how an anarchist can be against war. I don't know. That's it seems like both ends of the spectrum. All right, now explain this one to me. How can an anarchist be against war? How can an anarchist be against war? I don't really understand that.
An anarchist is an individual accountable only to himself. So he can do anything he wants.
Good answer. I knew you'd have it. I appreciate you.
Ask me anything, though.
Right? Because, well, that's what he said. You know, it's like, but he's raging against war. Okay.
See, the whole thing is, we have to develop the physical assets that give us the ability to raise our living standards and our creative mental mentation.
Mental mentation.
Yes, so we can the harmony of mental mentation that will carry us into the future. Be inquisitive.
What is your shirt? What does your sign say?
I don't know.
You don't know? Did they pay you to carry it? That's what the Palestinian people were saying. Do you know 1 out of 13 knew what sign they were carrying when I asked? I didn't understand that.
Yes, you don't understand because they give out all kinds of different predicates to maintain
for Clint, Russell, and Jody.
Confusion in
Next up, we've got a great speaker. We've got Aaron Day. He's a fellow at the Brownstone Institute. He's also a former presidential candidate. Welcome, Aaron Day.
All right. Former president.
At our table, we'll talk some more.
God bless you. Thank you.
And I like your attitude because
Thank you.
You have a good inquisitive mind.
Yes.
Searching for answers.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know what kind of answers.
Good afternoon, Washington.
After talking to us.
We stand here at the very monument of freedom where we're allowed to say what we
Always.
want.
Thank you.
Provided, of course, we don't wave a flag, hand out a flyer, or attempt to exercise any of those other pesky First Amendment rights. In fact, with over 39 things banned here today, I'm surprised the National Park Service didn't just cut to the chase and ban freedom itself. But hey, we're here and we're still talking. And in a town where speech is restricted and war is unlimited, that's something of a victory. We gather today on the brink of disaster. The doomsday clock stands at 90 seconds to midnight, the closest we've ever been to annihilation since the height of the Cold War tensions in 1953. The ongoing conflicts push us closer to nuclear disaster. Entire cities lie in ruins, millions displaced, civilians killed. From Kiev to Moscow to Lebanon, the fighting rages on. The U.S. has poured billions into Ukraine while expanding NATO, profiting from the destruction with hundreds of thousands dead. Hawkish politicians downplay the risks, even suggesting nuclear war is winnable. But as Eisenhower warned, you cannot have this kind of war. There just aren't enough bulldozers to scrape the bodies off the streets. So I ask you, is this the world we wish to leave our children? A world forever poisoned by radiation, with survivors struggling atop the smoldering ashes of civilization? And who is the real enemy? It isn't America versus Russia or China. It isn't even West versus East. We face the threat of a global technocracy, where a single digital currency and social credit system will end free will itself. This isn't a theory. UN Agenda 2030 is accelerating before our eyes. We can't vote our way out. We are just one presidential election away from not the start, but the fulfillment of Agenda 2030. Do we think Congress will listen? DC is run by blackmail and money, and we don't control the money printer. In 2022, almost all incumbents won re-election. Congress will remain mostly the same, and if you think Trump will fix it, I've got a vaccine to sell you. You know, and I know, the winner of the 2024 election is going to be the same that it's been since 1948. The military-industrial complex and banks. Trump and Harris both propose increasing military spending. We fund an endless war machine that only benefits corporations like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Boeing. They deploy their army of lobbyists to ensure the river of cash keeps flowing, no matter the human cost. All wars are bankers' wars. They always have been.
Banks have profited from war and suffering for centuries, from the Rothschilds and the Napoleonic War to the House of Morgan funding both sides of World War I. During World War II, American banks financed both Nazi Germany and the Allies, and in Vietnam, our soldiers were killed by weapons funded by the same banks profiting from the conflict. This betrayal continues today. Banks that fund terror and oppressive regimes grow rich from the West's endless war on terror. While they thrive, it's our families and friends who pay the price. Ukrainian reconstruction is their next cash cow. These banks don't just hurt us as a nation, they devastate us as individuals. They drain us with predatory practices, drive families into debt, and crush us with inflation. They silence anyone who dares to resist, shutting down businesses and livelihoods that don't fit their agenda. They're not just profiting from war, they're waging one against us. To quote a banker from Citicorp, the only test we care about is can they pay their bills. They are not our friends, and they own both of the major parties in this country. How many here, show of hands, distrust big banks? We stand together, united not just by a common desire to stop the destruction of humanity, but by a deep, burning distrust of the banks that fuel it. We're bound by the shared pain of watching our loved ones suffer while these institutions profit from chaos and misery. We don't just dislike them, we loathe them for the way they've torn apart our lives, our communities, and our future. Ron Paul has been warning us for years, and he was right. In End the Fed, back in 2009, he urged us to wake up, but no one listened. Since then, our debt and money supply have nearly tripled. His message was a lifeline, but we ignored it, and now we're paying the price. While global tyranny through the UN Agenda 2030 looms, ending the Fed by Congress is generations away. Bitcoin emerged from the 2008 crisis as a beacon of financial freedom. Peer-to-peer cash to break the grips of banks and the state. But that dream was hijacked by greedy insiders, the deep state, and financial giants, turning it into a slow, trackable digital gold. Now it's just another tool of control, and those holding it on exchanges are vulnerable, just like when FDR seized gold. Early pioneers like Ross Ulbricht, Ian Freeman, and Roger Ver were crushed, raided, imprisoned for daring to dream of a truly free money. My wife and I watched Ian get 8 years for simply selling Bitcoin, and I interviewed Roger weeks before his arrest in Spain. They're paying the price for challenging a system built on control. We can't let their dream die. We must fight for financial freedom, to make money a tool of liberty, not oppression. Roger Ver, known as Bitcoin Jesus, did more than anyone from 2010 to 2015 to bring Bitcoin to the world as its major merchant and investor in Bitcoin-related companies. He envisioned a future where money was free from state control and financial tyranny. When he exposed how Bitcoin was being hijacked, he was arrested in Spain just weeks after publishing his book, Hijacking Bitcoin, a blatant attempt to silence him. This is the reality we face. When Madeleine Albright can say that the deaths of 500,000 Iraqi children were worth it, it shows how far we've fallen. Roger dared to challenge this indifference, only to be harassed for 7 years for trying to leave the country that fuels global violence. They claim he evaded taxes, but he was one of the first to try paying them on Bitcoin. Now they're targeting his legal team to silence him and bury the truth. We must stand and demand justice. The DOJ must drop its case against Roger. The White House must pardon Roger, free Ross, and free Ian. If Bitcoin isn't the answer, what is? I stopped using a bank in 2019. I now use primarily privacy coins like Zano and Monero, gold and silver instead of the US dollar. It is possible to begin transitioning out of the system, and it's something each of us can do right now. In fact, I ran for president to raise awareness about this issue. My platform was simple: ditch the dollar to stop World War III, halt CBDCs, and end the Fed. My message remains the same, and you never had to vote for me. Just vote with your wallet. We host workshops teaching people how to use alternatives to the dollar, and you can learn more about this at daylightfreedom.org. While this event is called Rage Against the War Machine, I urge a different approach. Rage often hides deep sadness. Of course we're sad. We watched the Bill of Rights be torn apart since 9/11, while America leads globally in only 2 areas: defense spending and incarceration rate. We need to set fire to tears and strike at the root by starving the beast. War depends on fiat currency. The government issues IOUs to the Fed, which then creates money out of thin air in a database. This is the very definition of a central bank digital currency. The government then writes checks to buy weapons and fund wars that kill our children and innocent people all over the world. The IRS serves as a collection agency for the Federal Reserve, making sure the bankers get paid by force. It's time to exit the Fed and ditch the dollar. Every time you buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks using the dollar, you're enabling the funding of the UN, which in addition to employing 3,300 pedophiles responsible for over 60,000 rapes in the past 10 years, also participated in the October 7th attack on Israel. Every time you buy something through Amazon with the dollar, you contribute to the funding of the blowing up of innocent children in Lebanon. Every time you pay your taxes, you're funding both sides of every conflict in Ukraine and Russia, China, Taiwan, and Israel and Lebanon. The way to vote no to war is through radical non-compliance. Ditch the dollar now. How many claim to be anti-war but have 401ks and retirement portfolios that have investments into merchants and merchant bankers of war? Our money is a form of energy. You can't truly be anti-war while investing in and using the currency that fuels it. Picking a puppet as our slave master every 4 years isn't a choice. It's a manufactured illusion designed to make us feel like we have a stake in a rigged system. We make 35,000 choices every day. Start right now by not investing in the war machine or using the dollar. Some label this call for peaceful resistance too radical, but those in power will call any challenge to their profits too extreme. They said the original American revolutionaries and civil rights leaders were too radical. If radical means going to the root of injustice, then we must be radical. If just 3% of us ditched the dollar and started using alternatives for day-to-day transactions, we could collapse their house of cards in less than a week. Future generations will tell the story of the day we found our voice and said enough. The war machine ends here. The call to action is simple. Ditch the dollar and start using privacy cryptos, gold, and silver. Then tell 3 others to do the same and encourage them to spread the word to 3 more people. Just as 3% of the population who fought in the American Revolution made a profound impact, so too can we transform our society through collective action. It's up to we, the people. Let them hear us. Ditch the dollar now. Woo! Let them hear our voices across this land. Say it with me. Ditch the dollar now. Let them hear our voices in Kiev, Moscow, and Tel Aviv. Ditch the dollar now. Let them hear us across the globe. Ditch the dollar now.
Woo. Wow. Free thinker cheers. What do you think of Bitcoin? What do you think of Bitcoin?
You, Aaron Day.
When my daughter was 7.
Next up, we've got someone who I know a lot of you have been looking forward to seeing.
All the kids
it
in
is
the neighborhood.
Ian Carroll. He's a journalist.
Bottle
His
caps.
tagline is follow the money and seek the truth.
And Mickey Mouse.
Ian Carroll,
was
everybody.
The funniest one. And everybody was trying to get Mickey Mouse, so we had to buy all kinds of soft drinks to get these bottle caps. And the one person that got a Mickey Mouse, some of the kids were saying,
Hello,
I'll
Washington.
give you all my
Hello,
bottle caps
America.
for one Mickey Mouse. It's the same thing as Bitcoins. No
60 years
physical
ago,
assets behind
John F.
it.
Kennedy
It's a
famously
figment
said,
of your imagination.
I speak of peace
Bitcoins
because of the new face
is
of
the
war.
same thing as 7-year-old
At the
bottle
time,
caps.
nuclear weapons had revolutionized the face
I
of
love this
warfare
guy.
and changed it from a time of armies fighting armies on battlefields that looked much like they had for millennia. And it had transformed into a world of covert operations, of secrets and subversions, of intelligence agencies. And today, we once again speak of peace because of a new face of war. And certainly, proxy wars and subversion still happens, and we are here to protest that. But today's face of war has a new face. And it's been called by many names. Fifth generation warfare, information warfare, the info war, if you will. And it's a very apt name. Sun Tzu said, all warfare is based in deception, because information is the base layer of every conflict. But that fact takes on striking new importance when every single man, woman, and child around the world is carrying a supercomputer in their pockets that can answer your every question, that can connect you to people around the world, and spread information nearly instantaneously. It would be much harder for our government to justify a war with a nuclear-armed Russia on the soil of Ukraine if we all knew about the striking number of facts that point towards the CIA's involvement in the Maidan Revolution in 2014. It would be a lot harder for Israel to propagate their 80-year-long apartheid and their damn near genocide today if we can all see right in our screens the people of Palestine burying their loved ones in their homes, in their schools, in their mosques, and in their hospitals. Information is powerful. And governments know, and have always known, that at a certain level, they only govern with the consent of the governed. Although lately, that relationship has been stretched pretty damn far. And so our governments know that they must manufacture consent for these conflicts in this new war of information. And consent is manufactured where people communicate and share ideas and spread information. And today, that is your social media feed. That is your Twitter account, your Instagram, your Facebook, etc. So the Facebooks, the Twitters, your feeds have become the battlefield in the first line of this war that is designed to manufacture consent among the public. And you may think, I don't pay attention to the politics, I just watch cat videos, it's no big deal, they can't get to me. And I'm here to tell you that you cannot escape this conflict, because being distracted by cat videos is damn near as effective as being dissuaded by disinformation.
Amen.
Most people today have no idea how total this war is, because the military-industrial complex that John F. Kennedy warned us all about, it does not exist on an island. It is not a solitary entity existing in a vacuum. These are public corporations that are traded on our public stock markets. And that means that they have owners. They have an ownership class. And when you follow the money, you very quickly realize that the people that own Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, General Dynamics, all the rest of them, are BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and all of the too big to fail mega banks that we've been bailing out for the last 30 years. Conveniently, they also all own each other. And then you start to think about it and you realize that these very same corrupt financial institutions that are the top owners of the war machine, they also are the top owners of Pfizer and of General Mills and of your car companies and of your water utility companies. They're even the top owners of all of the biggest funerary companies in America, so that when you have to bury the dead in their proxy wars that come home from abroad, they have a service for you. And it's important to take a moment to think about what that means. When the boss of the boss at Lockheed Martin is the exact same banker of the boss at Pfizer as the boss at General Mills, suddenly all incentives are aligned. And so this warfare is not only about warfare on the battlefield, and it's not only about bloodshed, because if you're distracted by your cat videos, you're not making a lot of problems for the other branch of this profit-making machine. If you're sick because you ate too much food that did nothing but poison you, you're not going to be doing too much to combat this profit-making machine. They all serve the same masters, and those masters are the financiers at the top of the banking industry. Shout out, all wars are bankers' wars. They always have been, and they still are today. In a world of aligned incentives, it is highly profitable to all involved to keep you distracted, to keep you unhealthy, to keep you afraid, to keep you angry with one another. Because if you're not creating profit in that avenue, you're probably creating it in one of the other avenues. It brings a whole new meaning to the phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats, when you realize that that tide is the blood and the bodies of millions of civilians all around the world that have died in these proxy wars for profit. And so that is why we speak for peace, is because of this new face of war. The war that is not only fought with weapons and guns and tanks and bombs anymore. Now it is fought with information, it is fought with ideas, emotions, words. Because the information that manufactures the consent to allow this to keep on going on is the most important weapon in their arsenal. And without it, they can do nothing if we do not consent to this governance. And so, thank you. And so, just like John F. Kennedy said a generation ago, we stand here today for peace because of this new face of war. But the good thing is that this war is not fought with weapons. And so I'm calling on you not to fight with weapons, but to stand and fight in this war with your words and with your emotions and with your ideas. And maybe we can spread this message, and rather than manufacturing consent,
no, they're against all of them.
we can manufacture peace. Not just peace for our people, but peace for all people. Not just peace in our time, but peace in all time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Up next, we're going to have Jordan Page. We're going to get some really great musical. Oh, you want to talk?
That's right.
Great job. Okay, thank you guys. Stick around. We're just going to set up real quick, and Jordan's going to get us rocking.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
My friend Alejandro. Alejandro, this is Emily. Nice to meet you.
Ooh, it's hard to stand there. Excuse me, are you running security? Are you part of security? Tomorrow, are they going to allow chairs or no? Stools? No? Okay. Well,
that guy right there.
Which one?
Gate might know. The big guy.
Oh, I see him. Okay, thank you. All right. It's too hot. Sorry. Oh. Phew. Hey.
So two things.
I heard that maybe you might know for tomorrow. That's just how I roll. Tomorrow, it's going to be, you know, a lot, like 7 hours. Are we able to bring a stool?
No, I don't think you can bring none of that. I don't know what the policy is, but they got all different type policies. But they probably have their own set policy. You got to look
For
online.
tomorrow, yeah.
You got to look online.
Okay, I'll do it. Okay, will do. Thank you. Tomorrow they said, like, you know, no sharp, no knives, no pepper spray. Almost like, you know, what it would be to get into a building. Let's go check out this tree over here. If we get here early enough, maybe we can get under the tree. But tomorrow this place will be full. I think people decided which day they were going to come in. Rage Against the War Machine was huge last year at the Lincoln Memorial. But there was a lot of communist groups, socialist groups, the anarchists were there, the Antifa, and then just all kinds of regular people. So I think they realized that it wasn't really their venue last year. Because they have to protect the lawn, so they put down the flooring, and it is so bright it like reflects up the sun, you guys. Holy cow. So here we are on the National Mall, that Rage Against the War Machine. We got the Washington Memorial right there. And this is where the event will be tomorrow as well. So there are some people with chairs. Hey, quick question. Did you have any trouble bringing chairs over for the event? No? Okay. Because this is where I want to be tomorrow with a chair.
Tomorrow they didn't have the no chair rule. Yeah, there's no problem.
Okay.
Hello everybody, my name is Jordan Page. It's great to be here. I flew out from
Oh my gosh,
Washington
okay.
with you guys today.
Okay, but tomorrow it doesn't
Been
say
an
no chairs.
anti-war
Right.
voice,
But it's
anti-war activist for many
yeah,
years now. This is my very good
because that's a
friend,
long
close
time,
friend,
that's 7
Tatiana
hours.
Rose.
So
She and I
Okay. Just don't pepper spray anybody either. Thank you so much. All right. I'll meet y'all here tomorrow. We'll share the shade. It's intense. I've been standing over there on the because they have to put the flooring in. Very intense.
Thank you guys for participating in this. And we're going to start with a song. This is my brand new single that just came out. It's called Free Ross. It's a call for Ross Ulbricht, who is a political prisoner, to be released from prison. He was given 3 consecutive life sentences, which in the federal system, there's no parole. So he's basically in there for the rest of his life. We're building a website. I encourage you to check out freeross.org.
I think this will be good tomorrow.
To learn all about Ross, and this is a song I wrote for him. Our shirts say Free Ross Day 1 because President Trump has promised to free him on day 1 of his next term. So thankful for that. And we want to hold him to that promise. That means a lot to us.
And there's a booth over there if you guys want to get your own shirt and sign the petition. Be sure to do that.
So this song has a very choral type chorus, and I would love for you guys to sing it along with us. It's just a chant with the words Free Ross. You'll catch on as we go. Here we go.
Okay, everybody sing along.
Is there anywhere on earth where a man can still be free? Will he bear the weight alone, or will he have to bend the knee? Is there no one in this land who grows tired of the game, where the wicked gather stones and build up prisons in our name? There's a story that you've heard before. It's been told in every age of a gentle soul misplaced inside a cage. Whoa, Free Ross, Free Ross. An artist and philosopher, embattled by the steel of a self-designed to force all men to kneel. But he's patient and determined in his endless duel with time, in a sentence unbefitting of his crime. Will you bend your ear to listen? Will you turn your face to see the injustice staring back at you and me? Free Ross,
Sing it, critical thinker.
Free Ross. He stands in the presence, looking back, he sees the boy he was is gone, and there's no pretending, living day to day, and that he carries on.
Hey, Beth, sing along. Hi, Third. Hey, Danita. Five-star angel. MC says meatloaf. Rescue the Republic. Yes, yes, Rescue the Republic rally. Absolutely. anyone would like to contribute to traveling expenses back and forth to DC and these events, all the events that we've been doing, it's greatly appreciated. I put the Cash App address down in the bottom, the right-hand corner, but I also accept Zelle, Buy Me a Coffee, givesendgo, and oh, what's the other one? I think that's it. Free Ross, all right.
Thank you guys so much.
You guys know any politically influential people? Please introduce them to the Free Ross team. They're looking for all the allies.
This is where we want to be tomorrow.
This next song is a song about ending the wars. It's called Listen.
I want to go and go and get a chair. Thank you, Third. Thank you so much. Everything helps, I'll tell you. Just parking alone just for 3 hours, I found a pretty cheap spot, but it's higher than normal. What was the wind like while I was standing?
You hear like an echo in your head. There's a strange vibration rising up from the heart of America, America. Listen to the sound of the drum calling players to the game of the new world order. Don't be caught unaware when the heads start rolling. No, it couldn't happen here. I know it never happened here. But I will not submit to authority of man. I'm alive, I'm awake. This is more than I can take. If you had an open door, we could give a little more.
The sun's got intense. Lots of people out. Tourist season is still on 24/7 all year round. The songs of Arabia. There's the Lincoln Memorial.
Couldn't happen here, I know it never happened here.
Maybe we'll just sit on the wall over here. Now we'll get a chair and sit under the tree. There's still a couple more hours. And Ivan hasn't spoken yet. It is 1968 all over here. Right? I'm amazed that the Ceasefire Now group isn't out here. Just shows you how they care about the war. Here it is, Rage Against the War Machine, and they're not out here. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue what they're protesting. So, I like this group here. If you go on their website, I put their website underneath the description. And it's rageagainstthewarmachine.com, and you can see their list of what they are for and what they're against, and I can agree on all of it. Although I'm with one of the first guys that spoke that, you know, sometimes there's a time for war. Sometimes. Let's see. Let's go over here. World War II memorial is right there. Phew, it got hot. Alright, y'all are gonna have to watch me for a little bit. Hey! I think I missed the kite festival this year. That was pretty cool last year. It got really hot. Oh my goodness. We have a lot of people coming in tonight for the vigil. I know. I think I'm farther than I think I am. Oh my goodness. Another beautiful Saturday in Washington, D.C. Trying not to get run over. So you guys, one of the things you need down here, the Camelback. Holy cow. Can you give us your resources, Paul, to say something that's that serious? Are you able to list your resources so that people can check it out for themselves? Oh my gosh, y'all, that sun is really intense. Okay, can you put them in there? Because your statement definitely gets me surveyed by the national security and everything else. So if you can put your resources, I would really appreciate it. Make it worth my risk that you've given me here. Not that I don't appreciate you, I do. I appreciate everyone's opinions. I appreciate information, but if you put down information as facts, please, please, please list your resources where you obtain that information. It's greatly appreciated. I pray that everybody's having a wonderful day. It is absolutely gorgeous. There's a little bit of coolness on the breeze. I'm praying that there's a nice breeze tomorrow too. It's going to be a much bigger event. Ooh, that's a hike. Oh my goodness. I'm afraid I got sunburnt. That was so intense. Oh my God. I know, praying for great weather tomorrow. All right, that's it. I can't do that walk again. Oh my goodness, thank you for tuning in for the Rage Against the War Machine. I didn't realize that both events were bundled up together. I don't think a lot of people did. And quite frankly, I thought I was going to the Lincoln Memorial. And it's a good thing that I checked, because that's where it was last year. And it's a good thing that I checked, or I would have gone to the Lincoln Memorial instead of the Washington Monument. So I wonder if other people had the same issue. But luckily, tomorrow's has been well advertised. Share out the flyers. I've been sharing them. I will be sharing them again. And for tomorrow, Rescue the Republic. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Russell Brand, some of our favorite doctors, and so many more great speakers tomorrow on that same stage. We have a whole bunch of people convoying in. Some part of the Take Our Border Back branched off from the group that went to Canada to break bread with the Canadians up there in Niagara Falls area. They have a detachment that's headed to DC to come and attend the event tomorrow. Rescue the Republic, right here on the National Mall. And we have friends coming in from all over the country too, so it's going to be really, really fun. And it's going to be just a huge, important event. I need air conditioning. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's awesome. No, not quite yet. Thank you. Okay, Paul. Unless you can list your resources, please don't put any more about 9/11 on here. Because if you can't put your resources, then I can only assume that you're trying to get my live stream taken down. If one of my mods doesn't mind, if you can delete those statements. And I'm not saying that we're not with you, or that there aren't some people who agree with the same statements. I don't know enough personally, but YouTube is still by far the widest used platform, and its ease of use as well. My average viewer is over 55, and YouTube is user friendly, so I'm just gonna follow their oh, I see, the WNBC. Okay, well, thank you, Paul. Okay, specifics is one thing, but This was about Rage Against the War Machine, and I mean it does time in, but in order to save my channel, I'm going to delete your comments. Not you. You're more than welcome, but I'm going to delete your comments. Because I'm pretty sure that could lose me my channel, so I really want to keep it. We appreciate you, Paul. Thank you for understanding. Thank you, Shannon. Whoops. Thank you so much. I'm back in the car, and I have I have all the blinds up and the air conditioner going. I need to cool down. Holy cow. And relax here for a minute and decide if I can make it all the way back over there or not. I've already walked that twice, so... But if I do, I will go live again, so just look for my live stream, and otherwise I'm going to take a break. Yeah, censorship is and I hate... Rebel Girl, I just can't stand that I even did that, or had to do that, or felt the need to do that. It's just ridiculous that I should even have to feel like I should delete a comment, because Paul wasn't being nasty. He was trying to help inform and share what he's found. But it is what it is just for today. At least we're coming together for a bigger cause and a better cause. So and that's part of it too. But we'll keep the channel up to keep bringing us together. I know, it's so true, Rebel Girl. And also, quite frankly, once we get through the election, depending on what happens, I'd like to do more of oh, excuse me. I'd like to do more adventure field trips for our history and our beautiful country, and so this is a good platform to do that as well, since they don't teach history in the schools. Maybe some good adventure videos would interest a younger generation to learn more about their country and how we got where we got. Hi, Lynn. God bless you. I love you too. Oh my goodness. I think it's gonna... The sun is like blazing right into the window here. I've got my shade up, but I don't know. Trying to cool down from it. That was intense. I was standing there holding the gimbal for a few hours. on that hot oh, look, you see, where is it, the monument to the trees. Oh my gosh, it's pretty cool. Rebel Girl, I cannot get a signal. I cannot get a strong enough signal. Here, sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. Oh my goodness, I look terrible. I can't get a strong enough signal on the vigil corner when I'm trying to run Rumble, and but I will try to remember to share this up to Rumble later on and do more of that, because I share things over to X and my Facebook page, and I'll try to remember to share it over to Rumble as well. So, but for me to go live on there, it just winds up screwing up my whole signal. And there's a bad enough signal down there anyway, and around DC, so it's just not worth it. I can't even watch Rumble on my TV at my cottage because it just spins and spins and spins. So I don't know. That's a shame. All right, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and cut the stream. Anyone who would like to contribute to travel expenses, it's so appreciated. This is a self-sustained channel, and we've been going for over 2.5 years since the People's Convoy, when I went out to join them up on the 3rd day in Ohio, 4th day I guess it was, for them. And it's been amazing, absolutely amazing. So I thank you all. I couldn't do it without you. I'm going to cool down, and if I wind up back over at the stage again, I will go live, of course, and y'all should get the notification. So check on me in just a little bit, and just in case it doesn't notify you. But otherwise, I will be at the corner. I will be at the vigil this evening. We've got people coming in. I'm so excited about it. I don't want to say who it is just in case anything changes. But it's going to be another nice group tonight. The family visitation weekend for the J6ers in the jail, except for Olivia Pollock. But they weren't able to allow the 2 prisoners, political hostages, to be visiting with their same parents. So we're praying for Olivia. She's got a great attitude. God bless her. She's a strong woman in faith. And but I will be down there tonight, and it will be so exciting to see so many people. And I love you all. God bless each and every one of you, and glory be to God. See you soon. Maybe sooner than later.